Hello, hello. Welcome to our Friday live. I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome back to my Thinking Like an Exec series. In case you're new around here, I'm Tony Collis, executive coach, board advisor, and former tech executive myself. And this series is all about helping women, just like you, high performing women in tech, step into that strategic leadership visibility that you all deserve without burning out or become something you're not. I think one of the fears for so many of us is that being seen as more of that leader, more strategic, can feel like I'm going to lose who I am. And I'm all about helping us find our own path here. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. As you join us live, if you're here live, please do drop in the chat. I'm going to make sure I've got my chat up. Pop in the comments wherever you're watching. I know some of you watch on YouTube, some of you watch on LinkedIn, some of you are watching on the replay. Hello, if you're on replay. But if you're watching live, actually, even if you're on replay, drop in the comments where in the world you are, because I think we have a global audience. Most of my audience is in North America. But one of the things I love about what I do is that I get to meet women from all over the world. And so, and I love it if you dropped in the comments and told me where you are from as we're getting going today. Also, I can just say, let me just say this, right? I truly fundamentally believe in this work. That's why I do it. I truly believe that the human race needs better leadership. And one of the fastest ways to build better leadership is to have diversity. And, when we work in an industry such as tech, which is very single gendered oriented, in this case, male, there are sectors where it's the other way around, but tech is male oriented at the moment. It's a no brainer that we diversify and we get women at the top. We know that having more women in the executive team changes the world for the better. We make better decisions. We get more profit. We make more ROI. We just more revenue as well. So we know it's a good thing. And that's my passion. I fundamentally believe tech is the thing that's going to get us through the challenges we face as a species. And if women aren't involved in those decisions, that's a bad thing. So I really believe in this work. So do me a favor and drop a comment, because every time you do that, the algorithms reward me. And by rewarding me, what they're actually doing is going to put this in front of more women. And if I'm going to change the world, I need your help to do that. Help me. It's a free way to help me. Pop a comment in that says to the algorithms that this needs to get in front of other women just like you. And hopefully together we're going to change the world. But let's crack on with how today we're changing the world. And hello, those of you who's already packed in the comments. Thank you so much. You have no idea how good it is. And also just to hear where you're all calling from. So we've got US, we've got Canadians already. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Right, we are going into Thinking Like an Exec. This is part 2 of 4 or 5. I'm still mapping it out. I was actually mapping out like this series, and I was like, I've got so much to talk to you about. And then I've got 2 other series I want to do as well. And that's just the beginning. So if you're liking this, let me know that you want me to continue. That's also really good for me to know. I put 4 to 5 hours work into each of these. They don't just come together magically. It's a lot of time. It takes me away from my clients. Well, my clients are always my number one priority, but it's time away from the day job. And so I want to know that this is hitting the spot for you all. So if you joined me 2 weeks ago, thank you for coming back. If this is your first time joining us, thank you. I'm really glad you're here. Welcome. But each of these sessions stands in its own right. But together, my goal is to build a powerful set of mindset shifts, leadership tools that are going to help you shift how you're thinking, how you're operating, how you're seen. My goal is that this is a package of tools that you're going to put in place, especially if you've ever felt like you're being relied on but not recognized at the strategic level. That's what we're really trying to do through this series. So in the first session 2 weeks ago, I dug into something that I see all the time with my clients. Brilliant women delivering results, but still not being seen as strategic, sorry. I broke down what it means to be strategic, what it actually means. And spoiler alert, it's not jargon. We did have the phrase bullshit bingo in last week's session, the 2 weeks ago session. And so this is about making sure you're talking about the right way to frame your ideas, connecting your work to business outcomes, showing that you're thinking beyond that task at hand. And I gave you 3 shifts: leading with why it matters, not just what you did; framing updates around outcomes, not activities. And I think that's something we all need to do more of. By the way, if you're job hunting, This is seriously a biggest game changer. Change the way you answer interview questions to outcomes, not activities. I've just had a couple of clients land amazing roles, and seriously, that was the number one thing we did, was change how they talked about what they were doing. And then the third piece is anchor your ideas in that bigger picture. So today, we're building on that foundation from last time. I want you now to go from just sounding strategic to making sure you're doing strategic work, which this is a toughie. Because when you're stuck in the frame of being the go-to person, the fixer, the one who always makes things happen, but you're never in the room when the real decisions get made, you're not being seen as strategic. And it feels like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, there's no way out of it. That's what I'm talking about. Strategic framing for those of us who do too much. We're going to talk about how to shift out of reactive over functioning into intentional influence. And I'm going to show you how executive thinkers communicate before the fires start, not just after the damage is done. And it's really about changing the way your brain's working, which we started last time, and then changing what you're doing based on that. That's the step that's super, super important. So I'd love a thumbs up in the comments if this is resonating with you. Are you somebody that's seen as a bit of an overachiever, the fixer, but maybe not getting traction in her promotion? It is super warm here today, so iced coffee is all around in my opinion today. Okay, let's start with something that might hit a little close to home. And again, I want you to pop in the comments and tell me if this is who you are. If it's not who you are, tell me, how are you a little bit different? That really helps me understand if I'm supporting the audience here or if I'm off piece. It's always so hard when I'm not in a room and I'm able to ask questions, which is, the old way of doing it. I'd be in a room. I'd be like, so is this what you're needing? And they're like, well, yes and no. Here's a little bit more that we need. So if you are feeling like you're the one you're called on when the deadline's at risk, when something needs fixing, you step in. When the project's falling apart, you're the one who makes it happen. You're dependable. You're effective. You're the one who always delivers. And yet, you're not getting promoted. I'm getting a couple of thumbs up here, so this is resonating. Okay, I get it. This one was me. I was called in to turn around failing teams and deliverables. And yet I was told I was not promotable. That phrase was actually used. You are not promotable, Tony. And gosh, that was a sucker punch, if ever there was one. And one of the other ways this manifests is you're not being invited to the early stage planning, not being asked, what do you think we should do? And certainly not being considered for that next level role. So what's going on? Let's unpack this a little bit. Why are you not being seen as strategic, or at least not strategic enough? This is what I call the doer trap. It's one of the biggest reasons that high-performing women like us get stuck. We're so good at getting things done that people forget to see us as someone who could be shaping what gets things done. Here's the thing. Execution is necessary. Execution, I think, is the trap that every business falls into. It feels like it's the bread and butter of the business. And I say feels like deliberately because we're going to get to this later on. At the end of the day, if you don't do the work, you don't support your clients. If a client has a big thing, there's a fire, you have to fix it. Otherwise, there's no business because there's no clients. There's no product to sell. There's no whatever it is. Execution, delivery is necessary. But it's not what earns you a seat at the table, because the business is not about execution. I know this might blow your minds for some of you. Execution keeps the business going, but if you only focus on execution, your business is irrelevant in 12 months' time. You have to be thinking ahead. And so if you are the one who is always putting out fires, you are not the one who's giving vision to where we're going to be in 12 months, 24 months, 36 months' time. Leadership, real strategic leadership in a company, is about creating space, direction, and leverage, not executing. Think of it like this. If you're a firefighter, hey, we're talking firefighting here. So if you're a literal firefighter, everyone depends on you. You're admired. Everybody applauds you. They're the heroes in the story. But the fire chief is the strategic thinker. They're the ones when the whole town is on fire, they're the ones who decide who gets rescued, which is a really hard thing to do. They decide where resources get put in the first place. They make or break whether or not something's going to work. They're shaping the direction. You're just keeping things from burning down. If you're the firefighter, you're stopping it burning down. And that is essential, but it's not sufficient. If you are in this doer trap, you're in every escalation, but not in every planning meeting. You're praised for your work ethic, but not your ideas. You're told you're so valuable, but never tapped for more. You're always reacting, but you're never given the opportunity to steer, right? I'm assuming by now you're getting the picture. Here's the bit that's super unfair, especially for us as women. We're rewarded for over functioning. This is something that really, really gets under my skin. We're told we're doing great work. We're being told that staying late, we're holding it together. But this same overfunctioning means that we are not seen as strategic. And instead, you're seen as a doer who is reliable and gets things done. And every company needs somebody like that. The problem is, it is a level that you're not going to get past. Here's a real kicker, though. You might actually be thinking strategically, but because you're buried in the doing, no one is seeing it. So we want to talk today about getting out of this doer trap. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about how you frame your work, because it's not about doing less, it's about communicating differently. It's making sure that you are being heard for your insight, for your foresight, for your leadership, not just for your hustle and ability to deliver outcomes that are action-based rather than strategic-based. So let's talk about the shift that gets you out of this doer trap. This is what I call strategic framing. Before your brain jumps to buzzwords, executive jargon, let's clear something up. Strategic framing is not using fancier language. It's not sounding like an exec like we discussed 2 weeks ago. It's definitely not about saying things like, we'll drive cross-functional synergies at scale. Gosh, but if I ever hear somebody else say that to me, I'm just going to be like, nope, slap. I think I've got less tolerance for that kind of thing as I've got older. None of that's strategic. It's just noise. So what does it mean to have strategic framing? And this is really hard. You can't learn this if you're not in the room. And this is a problem. We rely so much on role models in leadership because nobody teaches us this stuff. Well, until now, hey, hello, I'm here. So we're relying on these role models. And actually, I think a lot of the people who think they're strategic, they're just throwing jargon around and they're getting away with it. And so we think they're doing the right thing, but they are not the people that are really admired. They might get a step up from us because of unconscious bias. They might be male, white. And we do live in a world of unconscious bias. So however good people are, women as well, by the way, we have unconscious bias against women on average. And so if you are looking at these role models who are a little bit ahead of you, who are doing okay, but are using jargon, you're not necessarily seeing the right role models, because strategic framing is about how you position your ideas, how you define what matters, how you guide your decisions, and how you shift the conversation from what should we do next to what outcomes are we really driving. Excuse me. So if we look at it from two perspectives, tactical framing and strategic framing. Tactical framing is, I've created the rollout plan. We're behind on delivery, so I'm reallocating resources. That's tactical. That's firefighting. That's the person who delivers on execution. Strategic framing, where I want you to get to, is we have two paths. One gets us quick wins, the other builds long-term growth. Which one aligns best with our Q3 goal? That's strategically framing. Rather than rollout plan, it's strategically framing with that long-term goal. Or if we don't roll this out by August, we risk losing 30% of the projected impact. Here's what I recommend. It's anchoring it. We talked about anchoring last time, anchoring it in that bigger picture. These are the kind of conversations you need to be having and how you should be making decisions. So you might be making decisions this way, but not communicating it. But what I tend to find when I dig into this with clients that I'm coaching is it's a bit of both, right? We're so in the weeds and the firefighting. Even if we've got a great team doing the firefighting with us, we're so focused on delivery that we aren't able to come out of that and be thinking, well, if I'm thinking strategically, how would I redirect my resources? So last time we talked about anchoring our voice in outcomes. This time it's anchoring your actions in outcomes as well. So it can feel very easy, or necessary actually, to anchor into emergencies, the fires. the urgent thing that landed in your inbox in that meeting this morning. But the problem with that is these distract you from strategic steps forward that anchor your team's actions in the strategic forward step. So I'd love to know in the comments. Give me I need an emoji here. Give me a high five if you are struggling with anchoring outside emergencies and execution. Do you tend to feel like I'm just delivering on a roadmap? I'm just delivering on somebody else's priority set. I'm prioritizing within a priority set, if you see what I mean. You've been given a roadmap and you're just execute, execute, execute. Give me a high five in the comments if that feels like you. If you feel like, you do anchor in strategic priorities, but maybe you're just not being seen as strategic, I want you to give me a smile. I struggle with emojis. I know it's a quick way to get you to interact with me, but my goodness me, that's not my strong suit, ladies, at all. Okay, keep those coming in. Give me a smile if you feel like you're being strategic, you're just not noticed for it. Or give me a high five if you feel like, actually, if I'm really brutally honest, I anchor in the emergencies and the execution. We got a mixture. We got a bit of a mixture here. Thank you, ladies. Thank you. So when we anchor strategically in the strategic frame, we do three things. We connect our work to the bigger picture, the why now. When we do that, we're also surfacing the risks and the trade-offs, not just the status quo. And then finally, we guide decision-making by asking better questions. When we are just executing, we aren't asking those really good questions. As an example here, one of my clients that was working with me earlier this year, she's still working with me, but we've been working together for ages. Earlier this year, she was so frustrated because she owns product in her organization. And there was this pivot that was decided without her. The entire product strategy was just going to be pivoting. She was brought in. She was so angry that she wasn't consulted. And she's like, how do I tell them this? And I was like, that's not going to change anything. What you've got to do is go in there and demonstrate them to, one, you can deliver on this, but two, you have ideas that they should pay attention to. But trying to tell them they've got it wrong right now, that's not strategic. That's just complaining. So she was being overlooked because all she had done previously, she's incredibly strategic, but she's quietly strategic. And so she was recognized as someone to lead key initiatives, to deliver on products. She was the first person brought in when the board signed off on this new roadmap, but she wasn't brought in as part of the roadmap, even though nobody in that meeting was product. Like, that blows my mind. Every time she spoke, she was giving progress reports, not insight. So we triaged the situation about how to get through that particular couple of days. But then since then, we've been working on reframing how she's taught. Instead of saying things like, we've completed development on X, she started saying things like, we've completed this stage. The window to test how this impacts conversion ends before Q3. My recommendation is, this shift means that she is now on the board. She is head of product and she is invited to those board meetings. It took 3 months, but 3 months of shifting how she was talking got her to those strategic decisions, the discussions. She's no longer frustrated that she's not being involved. She's now there and making sure product has a voice on the product roadmap, which, should do. But the thing is, she is still executing. But what she's doing, she's executing with that frame of opportunity, with that frame of outcomes. So I want you. Oh, I've got people saying I'm high five both. Okay, right. So we've got a real mixture here. Some things we're being strategic, but not noticing, but not being noticed. Other things we're very much in the weeds and executing. So that's good to know. Because I think one of the things to remember here is strategic framing changes how people hear you, not because you're louder, but because you're speaking their language, impact, timing, trade-offs, future. You don't need to do more. You need to make the value you're currently creating visible through how you frame it. And that brings me to our next part. How do you know if you're stuck in tactical framing? So let me be honest. Again, as a high-performing woman, because that's one of the reasons you're probably listening to me, you don't mean to lead tactically. You're sharp. You're insightful. I know you're capable of big picture thinking because you didn't get to where you are by not being that way. But somewhere along the way, we all get pulled into the weeds. So let's pause and get curious. Are you actually operating tactically or are you just framing tactically? Because you're always talking about what you're doing, how busy you are. By the way, if you ever start using the phraseology, I'm so busy, I've done all these things, I'm drowning a little bit. If you're doing that with anybody in your org, do it with your coach. Absolutely fine. Come to me, complain about how busy you are. If anybody hears you saying you are busy, you are fixing. They're thinking she's great at getting things done. They do not hear she's someone we should tap for strategy. So let me give you 5 signs. How many hands do I have? I'm like 10 signs. No, 5 signs that you're stuck in tactical mode. Number 1, you're in every escalation, but you're never in upstream planning. You're never looped in after the fire to prevent the next one. You're looped in on the fire. You're not looped in for priorities being set. You're trusted to clean up the mess. You're not deciding whether it's worth doing something in the first place. You're just given the thing to do. Number 2, you're praised for your reliability, but not your insight. You'll hear things like, we know you'll get it done. You'll always save the day. But you don't hear, or at least very rarely, that was a great idea. What do you think we should do? Number 3, you're asked to present status, not shape direction. You give progress reports, not to influence the path forward, but to say where you've got to. And even when you're technically in the room, the conversation's happening around you, not with you. And number 4, you're told you're not quite ready, even though you're overperforming. You've delivered again and again, and you work crazy hours potentially. But when the leadership opportunity comes up, you're passed over. Somebody else is tapped, and you're thinking, I do my job better than they do. Why on earth wasn't I tapped? And it's not because of your results, but because of the perception of your role. So that's actually 4 things. Sorry, I can't count today, apparently. I did actually have those written down for myself, and apparently I counted 5 rather than 4. So here are the signs again. You're in every escalation, but you're not involved in the planning. You're praised as reliable, but you aren't asked for your insight. You're asked to present status updates. You're not involved in direction setting. And you're told you're not ready, even though you're overperforming. Here's the truth. Strategic thinking doesn't matter if no one is seeing it. If you're constantly reacting, firefighting, over-explaining, people can't see it. They just see somebody who is delivering execution. So if you've heard yourself nodding along to any of those, I want you to know you're not alone. I'm thinking of those of you who've put a thumbs up or a high five. That's probably you, right? You're not underperforming. If anything, I'd argue you're overperforming. What you were doing is you're underframing. And so that's the shift we're going to make now. We're going to learn what it takes to frame differently, to ask differently, to lead differently. I'm hoping you're already kind of seeing where I'm going here because I've told you what's not working, right? So let's talk about how to dig into the frame. Because here's the thing, it's not about having better ideas. If that's the position you're in, we need to have a different conversation. I'm assuming you've got ideas, but you're not being heard. You're not grabbing attention. You're not building trust. You're not driving action. You're just reporting. You're not shaping the narrative. The executives that I work with who shift to this are thinking very differently. They are defining success in terms of leverage, not completion. They don't say we ship the feature. They say we ship the feature and that unblocks the next 3 million in revenue. They connect the actions to the value that's unlocked, to the future progress. It's a longer sentence, but it's always mapping. It's always strategic. And you're always talking that way, upwards, sideways to your peer and downwards to your team. Everybody around you hears context, not just reports. These women, they speak in trade-offs, not absolutes. They acknowledge the risks. They evaluate choices. You might be doing this in your head silently, but are you saying it? Are you vocally asking, if we say yes to this, what are we deprioritizing? What's the cost of not acting right now? This frames you as a decision maker, not just a contributor. And again, you need to use this language upwards, sideways to peers, downwards to your team. Everybody needs to hear that you are always evaluating, that you're always asking for input from people that know more about the execution than you do, because you're not in the execution weeds. The third thing these women that I work with do, everything is anchored in business priorities. We talked about this last time. We talked about it from the perspective of speaking it, but this time it's not just speaking it, it's also operating this way. Strategic leaders, we're not in silos. If you're an executive, by the way, already, if you're listening to this and thinking, I am an executive, I'm just not seen that way, one of the key things is, as an executive, you think well beyond your remit. You are thinking about everything in the business beyond your team. If you're an engineer, you're not just thinking about engineering. You're thinking about product. You're thinking about finance. You're thinking about marketing. You're thinking about sales. You're thinking even about HR. And similarly, for everybody else, it doesn't mean you're treading on toes, but you're holding the entire business, right? That's what an executive does. Because we don't think in silos. We think in terms of company OKRs, not our own OKRs. We think about customer experience, even if we're in a part of the business that doesn't deal with CS experience explicitly. We're thinking long-term positioning. Where are we going to be in 12 months, 36 months time? We're thinking about team capacity and timing. If you have ever sat there and complained to your boss about not getting headcount, I can pretty much guarantee you're not seen as strategic. A strategic leader doesn't go, I can't understand why you're not giving me this headcount, or something to that effect. A strategic leader understands that their boss has a budget and tries to figure out how to make sure that they get the bit of the budget and then overproduce so the budget goes up. That's the strategic thinker. Things we would say, this initiative supports our Q3 goal to reduce churn by 15%. If we invest in this project, what I'm expecting to happen is that we're going to see a revenue bump by 20% over the next 12 months. And I want to see a proof of concept in 6 months. And if we get that, I think we can increase our headcount without any overheads, right? This choice buys us speed, but we'll need to mitigate tech debt. The kind of framing that we're trying to signal is that we're thinking about our work in the context of the operating system we're in, if that makes sense. Let me know if this is making sense. Put me a yes or put me a no. Ask me questions. I really want to answer questions today. I know we're going to run out of time. I always overrun. But if you're able to stay on, I am here to answer your questions. So let me know if this is making sense, if you've got any questions. Because then the fourth thing that these women do, we make the insight the headline, not the task, not the timeline, not the status update. We lead with, here's the opportunity I'm seeing. The biggest risk right now is, this matters because. We make it super easy for a decision maker to focus on what matters most rather than the noise of what we've just completed this week. I would argue what you've completed this week that's there for comfort. I say this to my team all the time. I want in their weekly reports what they've done this week, so I feel comfortable as CEO of my business and head coach that my team have not dropped anything. But what I really care about is what's coming next, right? Because we're always looking ahead. We're always looking at how can we remain competitive. Okay, the fifth thing that I see these great leaders do, executing based on the insights, not on the fires. And this might be something that's tripping some, but not all of you up. Maybe some of the time. I think it trips all of us up some of the time, myself included. We are trained to handle fires. Our early career tends to be all about firefighting. But the great leaders strategically focus on eliminating fires. Every fire that happens, they're asking, how has that happened? How many times has it happened? What can we do to make sure it never happens again? They're not just firefighting. They find the time. They prioritize the time to make sure that fire never comes up again, right? Urgent operations, which don't get me wrong, they're incredibly important because without operations, there is no money. But as your company grows, to remain competitive, the operations today are kind of irrelevant other than keeping revenue ticking over, which is necessary to fund what's next. A company that focuses on day-to-day operations will never be competitive and will be out of business in 12 months' time. This is never more true than today. I think every company right now is being told, use AI, whether it's bringing AI into the product, because, hey, you're all in tech. Many of you are bringing AI into your product. or it's actually just using AI. My team, I'm always saying, like, why are we not using AI for this? We need to be more lean. We need to be more effective. And what's happening here is the companies who aren't putting this strategic effort into adopting AI in whatever form it is will be out of business in 12 months' time because they're going to be too expensive. It's strategic time, though. It's not going to pay dividends today, maybe not even in a month. The dividends are fast with AI, but not that fast, right? And so what we've got to do is think strategically about investing in AI today. So that's a really obvious one. It's something every company is going through. But it's not unique to AI. It's everything in the business. What you do today is going to be irrelevant in 12 months' time. If you're still doing this because all you're doing is focus on firefighting, the company is going to be out of business. That's why your executives are always looking ahead. If you want to be in that team that's always looking ahead, you need to be looking ahead. You need to be talking ahead. So let's put this into practice. So I've got some completely. I'm hoping that means you're all understanding. This is good. I'm liking it. Okay, if you were saying something like, the team has finished QA testing, I want you instead to say something like, with testing complete, that's the report, we're done with the report, we're now positioned to hit launch by August, forward pace, but we serviced one issue that could delay us if we don't address it today, risk. The report, it is at the beginning, but it's not the point of the sentence. This is the first sentence that should be out of your mouth. The point of the sentence is forward look, risk assessment. That's framing, that's influence. That's what executives need to be hearing. You don't sound like a leader because you say more. You sound like a leader because you say what matters. Reporting what's happened mattered yesterday doesn't matter today. The good news is this is a skill. You can practice it. You can build it. It is a skill that becomes innate. It shouldn't take you any time. It is going to slow you down a little bit in your thought process until it becomes a muscle that you just use, which is exactly what we're going to get into next. How to practice actually framing strategically day to day. So let's start with strategic framing as something that you can just learn, because that's really what we're talking about here. Number one, shift from update to insight in every meeting. Before every meeting, you need time to prep. I say to my clients, you need prep time every single day for all your meetings. Do at the beginning, well, at the end of the day works too. You need to look at your calendar and prep. Ask yourself, what's the most important insight here? What decision are we moving forward or towards? What's the opportunity or risk that needs to be surfaced? Previously, you've probably just said, we've completed X, Y, Z. Now, important thing, the backlog's clear. We have capacity to test a new feature, risk or opportunity that could increase retention by 10%, right? The decision you're moving towards is, do we make that? What are the balances of the risk and opportunity here? You're not just reporting, you're directing attention to a strategic decision of energy, focus, time, team, whatever it is. So that's the first one. Shift your perspective from update to insight for every meeting. If you give yourself time to prepare, the best executives I've ever worked with have all prepped for every meeting, however small on their calendar. They don't go to meetings if they don't prep. They cut meetings from their calendar so they have time to prep. It's a hard thing to do, but it makes such a big difference. Every meeting is more productive, so you actually need fewer meetings. Step number 2, use outcome, process, ask. We talked about this last time. This is a simple communication structure that instantly helps you sound more strategic. Outcome, what's the result or impact? Process, what got you there? Ask, what's the decision, support, or action you need? What's the decision you're making? Because sometimes you're not asking permission, by the way. You have to lead with impact first, then action, then a next step. It's really important. So, for example, again, I have to read these ones. I don't have these memorized. We reduced instant response times by 20% this week. Okay, that's the impact. That's thanks to a new triage workflow we rolled out. That's impact and what you've done, right? So that's history. I'd like to test that workflow in our customer success process next. Action. Do I have your support? That's the ask. Okay. Impact, action, next step with an ask. The next step could be, that's what we're doing. You don't have to ask your team. You should use the same framework with your team, but you don't ask your team. You tell your team. You can ask for input, but you have to own the decisions. You make it very clear that they don't own the decisions because it's not a democracy, my love. That's a whole other conversation. But remember, it's not a democracy in the workplace. The third thing is to anchor everything in something bigger. And again, we talked about this last time. How does this tie into the broader business strategic objectives? You might say, this work supports our Q3 goal of improving user retention. This aligns with the long-term vision of building a scalable platform. If we invest here, we reduce churn risk heading into the next quarter. You're crucially anchoring your actions in this as well. So talking the talk is not sufficient. You've got to deliver the anchor results. You've got to extract your team from the firefighting so that they can anchor their actions in the stuff that's making a difference. This change how your work is perceived, and you go from being an executor to the connector. That's strategic influence right there. Okay, the final piece. You're going to reflect and refine. This is part of my daily planning. I do it in the morning, so I plan my meetings and I also reflect on the day before. You could do it in the afternoons though. Ask yourself, did I speak in outcomes? Did I offer insights or just updates? Did I anchor my ideas to what matters most? How can I make sure my actions now anchor to those outcomes? Let me just say that again. Hit record or bookmark this so you can come back and write these down. Did I speak in outcomes? Did I offer insight or just updates? Did I anchor my ideas to what matters most? How can I make sure my actions now anchor to these outcomes? If you do that for 2 weeks, this will become muscle memory. You'll start operating more strategically. You'll start sounding more strategic. You're going to start operating and getting the influence and the reputation as somebody who just operates this way. And it's going to change how you show up in every communication, not just in your meetings, but in your Slacks, your emails, your project reviews, your cross-functional stand-ups. This is really a muscle, and it takes 5 minutes. That's all we're talking. 2 weeks, 5 minutes every day. I have yet to have a client who's actually done the work, 5 minutes every day, who doesn't see a shift in 2 weeks. So here's my challenge to you. Between now and in 2 weeks' time on our next session, I want you to choose one meeting, just one, baby steps. I want you to lead with insight. I want you to use outcome, process, ask as your framework. Anchor in that big picture. And then reflect your actions in that anchor. Then come back next time and tell me how it landed, okay? I really, really want to hear how that goes. This is such a simple set of shifts, and yet it's something we're never taught at school. I wish we were, and can change everything. So let me wrap up with a few summary items of what we've done. We've talked about why strategic visibility is about letting go of doing all the firefighting. It's not doing more, it's about framing differently. If you have this perception that you can't get promoted because you're going to burn out, I just want to nip that one in the bud. You do not get promoted for doing more. You get promoted for doing the right thing. And that starts with this frame. Because framing actually looks like doing the right things, not sounding clever. It's not about jargon. It's not about tactical communication. It's about delivering results and talking about results and talking about future. Talking about the strategic outcomes, actions, to lead the room, to shape direction, to build trust, and practicing every day until this just becomes who you are. You do not need to change your brilliance. You are brilliant. That's why you're listening to this. But you need to change how others experience it. Okay, I do have a gift for you. Last time I gave you a cheat sheet on strategic communication. If you'd like that, do drop me a DM. I'm happy to give that to you. But this time, I have actually got I'd love feedback on this. It's a new thing that I'm actually going to try with my clients as well. It's called the Promotion Readiness Scorecard. The idea is this little quiz, a little tool you can do that's going to uncover strategic visibility and the influence gaps you've got that might be holding you back, right? It's a beta product. It's just completely free, but it's in beta, which means that I'm going through every single result. So it's about 24 hours before you get the result because I'm going through every single one. So this is a great opportunity because you'll get me looking at your results individually. Because I'm trying to put it together as like something I can just roll out for everybody. So drop me a DM in LinkedIn with the word scorecard if you'd like it, and I'll send you over a link to complete that. And without any more, let me just say this: 2 weeks time, we're going deeper. July 25th, 2 weeks today, same time, same place. We're going into the next session in Think Like an Exec series. This is the one question great leaders ask in every meeting, because sometimes the fastest way to be seen as an executive isn't about saying more, it's about asking the right question that shifts the room, clarifies the real goal, positions you as a leader who gets it. So, in 2 weeks, I'm going to unpack the neuroscience of influence and give you some practical scripts to help you turn every meeting into that moment of leadership. Same time, same place. Add it to your calendar. After today's LinkedIn Live, I will pop the link in the comments for this live so you've got it. Do not miss it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being awesome. You are doing amazing work. I just want to make sure the world sees you in that. All right. Bye for now.